how many people use Excel and how frequently they use Excel. So quite interesting. From the group that we've got online now, it looks like there's about 2/3 of the people on the line are using Excel daily. So that's quite remarkable. And then, nearly when we look at it, there's another 22% of people use it a few times a week. So we've got some heavy Excel users and a few people that only use it occasionally, which might be the reason they're here as well, because they're looking for advice on how to best use Excel. Because I know for me, Excel used to be a little bit frightening if I thought about using it as more than just listing items, and I used to get stuck so much more than I do now that I use my friend Mr. Copilot to help me out.
Well, and that's it, and that's what I think, at least in the first iteration. So there is a lot more advanced functions that you can do, but just for the purpose of a wider audience today, I just wanted to show some of those more foundational or intermediate scenarios to really make sure that people don't need to be as reliant on co-workers or as reliant on taking a lot of time to research how to do these things. Copilot can be there as a really quick first step, in the same way that writing an email from scratch or creating a presentation from scratch, Copilot's able to give you some of these observations or some of this transformation within Excel faster than if we just needed to find out each time. Because if you don't spend too much time in Excel, it can be pretty daunting and time consuming to get anywhere, let alone getting to where you want to be. So one of the things I did want to show, and I will just put this in the background while it works away, is if you have a paid version of Microsoft 365 Copilot, some of the advanced features that are starting to come into the stack are around the researcher and analyst functionalities, which sit in the richer models under the hood of Copilot. So this is when you're getting into your GPT-5, getting into some more of the advanced compute power. So it does take a lot more energy to create the outputs here, but it does a lot further digging. So it goes into a much deeper state of the observations that it's going to make and how it's going to report back to you. So I just want to run something just on this spreadsheet that I've got here. So I've got a spreadsheet on the other page, which has got some HR data that people may have seen in previous demos. I've got some department managers as well. Decent sized spreadsheet on some sales data and some account managers as well. So what I want to do is just give Copilot some creative license to just dive in and just let me know what it can see within here. You could run a sales report through this and say, what are the changes that have occurred in the past 2 weeks? If you've got an ongoing update or forecast that you need to provide. But it's one of the ways you can do this is through the analyst function. So researcher is more of a ground level up. You're sort of building from scratch. You're trying to find out some information. You could attach in some different documents from your work and then say, combine with some industry insights or some industry reports, and I'll create a really long form version of that, really good for customer research. But analyst is more diving deep into existing documents as well. So one of the things that we can do to get started is I'll just say, what are some quick insights about the data from the uploaded file? And what I'll just do is just tag in the file that I want to talk to today. So I'm just tagging in the Excel sheet that I've got here. So really, I'm not doing too much to the guidance. You could be a lot richer in the request that you have about your spreadsheet. But what I want to do is just click go on that and let it do some work in the background. So I'll go do some other demos in the meantime, but we'll come back and see what research has done.
I'm going to admit that I've never clicked on anything in the left-hand toolbar at all. I've always just talked to my message Copilot, so I'm feeling a little bit underdone already. Given that I've been on so many of your webinars, literally, and this is a good opportunity for you to open up Copilot in your space, everyone, and maybe follow along with a couple of the prompts that Aidan's doing, just to kind of coach yourself along the way and open your eyes up to more of what Copilot can do. Back to you, Aidan.
Yeah, no worries. No, and this is where it starts to get more into the agent side of things. So this is where the conversation will be going more so in the near future. So versus just the individual experience we have with Copilot working one-to-one with it, what are the agents side of things of we consistently see a prompt that I'm working with Copilot, how do I make that automated through an agent functionality? So that's where the conversation will start to go. So say, for example, if we've got our sales data that comes out every 2 weeks versus every 2 weeks me putting in a calendar notification or remembering to go ask what are the changes week on week versus the last time I ran this, you could just run an agent to do that, and it'll send you a Teams message or an email just with what observations it's seen there. So really starting to cut out the middleman when it comes to you needing to do that action. It'll just do it on your behalf or depending whatever period you need it to run for. So we'll let that run. It does take a little bit of time. It's pretty rich sort of compute function. But in the meantime, we'll run over to our Excel sheet and just see what we're able to do in here. So just to kind of kick it off, just if you haven't used Excel within Copilot within Excel before, rather, some of the functionality does change quite often. And it actually stitched me up last week when I came into the Copilot in the top right-hand corner and I started using chat because there's this new function called app skills in here. Previously, it used to be one function. So it would kind of decipher whether you're looking to work in the app or whether you're looking to have a chat experience with it. but they decided to split it out. So if you're looking to just chat with Copilot, get some insights from here into some surface level stuff, utilize the chat functionality, because that's how it's going to work similarly to if you're just using Copilot from a high level. App skills is where you start to go in and actually make different changes to your spreadsheet. So you're asking it to sort of split cells. You're looking for it to do forecasting or conditional formatting, those sort of things. So do be mindful that these things can change. It actually caught me in the middle of a demo last week when I was doing it, so I had to try and figure it out on the fly. So it does keep me on my toes at times. You've got your Copilot up here. You've also got the access to Copilot within spreadsheets now as well. So you can highlight things like cells, and you've got your little AI logo here. So you could do things like starting to highlight individual cells, click on your Copilot logo, and then you can start to see things like show me interesting insights, show me a formula column suggestion, suggest conditional formatting. So you can start to be a little bit more focused rather than go to the top right-hand corner and have to write everything out. They started to figure out if the way people work in Excel is more around highlighting, choosing individual pieces of data, and then starting to work within Copilot from there. So just depending on how you work best with it, it is becoming a little bit more tailored into how you can start to get that value from Copilot. But the way I want to kick off today is go by the top right-hand corner, click on App Skills. So I do want to get some changes through to this spreadsheet. And what I want to do is utilizing some of the Python functionality in the background, so some of those richer experiences. I want to click on the HR data. I just want to put in a simple prompt saying, please give a unique insight using Python. So this is just me suggesting to Copilot that I want it to use some richer compute power when it comes to the output here. And let's see what it's able to output from just observing within this spreadsheet that I have today. So just while it's doing that.
Do you think everyone online knows what Python is, or because they're all Excel super users, they probably do?
No, so just to kind of describe that one a little bit, so Python is a coding language in the back end. So it used to be historically used a lot more within sort of data analysis. So a lot of the statisticians would be using Python when they're dealing with large data sets. So it's just giving that to the power of Excel. I won't try and overstate it because I've probably found out pretty quickly, but it is pretty good as far as just utilizing some higher rationality and higher compute power when it comes to our prompts within Excel, which isn't really required in the other applications in the M365 ecosystem.
Great, thank you.
So some of the things that we can see from in here is, so unique insight can be generated by exploring the relationship between employee satisfaction levels and salary categories across different departments. And we can see ones that have different associations with higher or lower satisfaction levels. So this is where you can start to scroll down, start to see the different departments, the different salary bands, and which ones are going to be having higher ones or lower ones. You can see it's a bit more statistical in the way that it is sort of portrayed in front of us with some null values as well. But you can start to get a bit more of an insight into like where the functionality is coming from, inserting it into a new sheet, and then we could potentially ask it to put it into a graph as well. So I'll do that a little bit more as we go. It's probably a little bit more meaningful if we get to the sales data. So we can go into the sales data spreadsheet. Let's ask it the same thing and see what it's able to come up with, because it's a little bit more numbers based on this panel, or in this sheet rather. So we'll get to see hopefully a few more insights when it comes to sort of different sales amounts, quantities sold, but hopefully just giving a few ideas as how you can start to break down some of these pivot tables, which if you have to make them manually, can be quite challenging if you're not familiar. Awesome. So this time we created a scatter plot. Let me insert that into the sheet as well. I think what we might have done is I might need to start a new chat, because a good lesson here for anyone using Copilot or any generative AI as well. Sometimes if you start to build prompts on top of each other, they can get a little bit confused. So what I might do is I'll delete that scatter plot just for the time being. Let's copy my prompt here and I'll start a new chat to make sure it's not getting confused, because I think it was relating it back to the previous spreadsheet as well, which is not what we want. Hopefully this only takes another moment, because once we just kind of get these high level observations, just kind of showing how Copilot can do a bit of the heavy lifting by itself, but then we'll just jump in and do some manipulations to some of this data as well, see how we can cut through some of the noise when you have to do that yourself. Awesome. So going through that refresh, we've gone that it's starting relating to this spreadsheet again. Now it's not getting confused between the HR data and the sales data. It's showing a unique insight can be uncovered by analyzing which product has the highest average sales product per unit sold. And this can reveal which product commands the highest price point or value in the marketplace. So starting to get into our sales data and just understanding which one would potentially be the best one for us to continue selling, which one's got the highest average sale price. So without us needing to do anything, it's just showing what is the average sale price by comparing quantity sold and sales amount. And so we're seeing the ETA machine, whatever that is coming in at on top at about 16.2 versus the other one. So theoretically, if we're going to be selling more products, then we probably want to focus on the ETA machine versus the other ones as well. So it is demo data, so we kind of take it with a grain of salt, but if you can relate that back to how your business works and some of the real data that you'd be analyzing day to day, we can get a lot more specific with some of these prompts too. So let's get a little bit more specific and just show hopefully some more tangible results here. I'll go to create a new conversation to make sure it doesn't get confused with any of the other ones. And people who may have joined before, but just in case there's some new people on the call today, I'll show a demo that I have showed in previous sessions. And one of the scenarios that I just wanted to show is previously when I've been in marketing roles, I've had to change this column A of full names and first names and second names and upload it into a separate system, which requires a first name and a last name. So to do this manually, you need to know your formulas pretty well in Excel in order to split those two values apart, or you need to take a very, very long time to copy and paste them manually, which I would ashamedly say I have done before. But let's see if Excel is able, or Copilot is able to help us speed up this task and make sure we can get this done quick as a flash. Awesome. So you can start to see that Copilot's highlighting the table so we can see it's working in the right spot, just to make sure we're sort of sense checking where Copilot is doing the heavy lifting. Starting to come down, it's generating some formulas. So you do get some of the rationale as to how it is working. And awesome. If we start to scroll down with what Copilot has come up with, just in the commentary box, you can see it's highlighted all of the relevant data. It's created a different formulas for both first name and last name generation. We can extend beyond this if we want to get an explanation as to how this works, if we want to do it ourselves later. But most importantly, cutting to the chase, we can see that it has created these two separate columns for us afterwards as well, with the option to then insert that straight away. So we don't need to then go through, copy and paste these. We can insert those directly into our spreadsheet as well. So if we were moving to the next stage where we just need to upload and connect this data to somewhere else, we now have first name and last name, and it's across a pretty large data set as well. So it has worked pretty efficiently in that regard. I'll just go ahead and delete those ones, as that one has been quite handy in a pretty practical sense before. If I go through, I might just jump through to our sales data once again. And let's have a look at some of the conditional formatting that we can work through here. Actually, no, let's go back to our HR data, because I wanted to show a bit more around a VLOOKUP or a lookup scenario, which a lot of people have to work through day to day, connecting through data from two different spreadsheets. Let's look at the scenario today of where we have our departments here on this first tab. And then if we go down to our department managers, we have department and the manager name within here. So another scenario where if you don't know how to do your VLOOKUPs or XLOOKUPs, it does take quite a lot of time to connect with the sales manager back to the HR data set and make sure that we're populating with the right thing. Now, a lot of manual work, a lot of manual checking as well to make sure it is accurate. So let's work with our Copilot to see if it's able to help us connect these departments through to the department manager. I'll just put a prompt in here. I'll just kind of let you know, because it did take me a little bit of time to become confident and, famous last words before I put it in there. But the prompt through here is create a lookup of the manager for the department. So I did label it as the same as the column, just to make sure that accuracy is there. I've tested it out just saying department. It tends to figure it out, but hopefully restrict down the opportunity for it to be inaccurate, and create a new column to show that relevant manager. So I'm trying to be as descriptive as possible, but also speak how people are probably speaking at speed with their tool. Let's put that into Copilot, see if it's able to decipher what I mean here and work between these two sheets in order to get the right value at the end of the day. So we'll just give it a few moments to work through that.
There haven't been any new questions come in, but just a reminder that, yes, you can pop in any questions that you may have if it's relevant for the actual demo that we're doing here with Aiden, or even just ones that you've been saving up for today. And awesome. There it is. Fast.
Cool. So we have a look at it again now. We can see that it's figured out. So it's created this job called manager, identifies the manager responsible for each employee by matching their department to this corresponding manager listed in the department managers table on table 6. So let's have a look down here. It's done an XLOOKUP this time. Traditionally, I would have done a VLOOKUP, but it's only because that's the only one I know how to do. And then we've worked through, we can see the explanation of how that has worked and then the output here. So once again, we'll insert the column and then we'll just do a bit of testing just to check the accuracy. We can see we've got Alice Johnson here for all of the sales volumes, sales entries though, which makes sense. Bob Smith for accounting, and then Carol Williams for HR. If we then go have a look here, that matches up pretty perfectly with the table that we needed to refer to. If I think about unless you're within the finance team or some of the more sort of advanced numbers-based departments, a lot of the value that I would get within sort of like sales, marketing, etc., is the ability to do VLOOKUPs, the ability to do conditional formatting, and the ability to do sort of manipulation of cells as well. So if you're thinking about how time-consuming that probably is, or also the opportunity cost of people not knowing these functionalities, how much time it then takes for this to get to the next stage and the value of that could be missed along the way, this potentially fills in a lot of a value gap of where people are able to get this access and above that 5% of functionality where people know how to utilize Excel. So I'll put that one down as a bit of a win. It can be used pretty widely as far as those lookups as well. So do give that a test if you have the opportunity from where you're calling in from today as well. But I will just go ahead and delete that for one moment, and then head along to our sales data. What I'll do is I'll start a new conversation here. One of the things that often as well is quite handy is conditional formatting. So just working through your spreadsheet, identifying consistent values of above or below a certain value, or if you're looking for a specific product or a company or a date range. Conditional formatting is something that can be quite tricky, but quite valuable if you're looking to sort of visualize and do some of the narratives of how your data is working. What I want to do here is work through just the sales amounts, just find all of the sales amounts that we can just arbitrarily just choose a value. Let's say all of the sales amounts that are above 5,000, please highlight in red. We'll put that through and just see if we're able to make Copilot work for us to just assist with this sort of conditional formatting. So highlight all sales amounts. We'll just keep it simple and we'll put that into Copilot, see what it's able to do for us today, and hopefully it can follow all of the parameters that I've just put into that simple prompt. If you're working in your, like if you've got a channel account manager team, or if you've got a sales team and you're trying to establish who is getting the most consistently high numbers or low numbers or anywhere in between, sometimes it can be a bit challenging or time consuming anyway, in order to get all of these values identified. Let's see what Copilot has done for us here. So sure, looking at the date rate at the ranges provided in sales data, here's one conditional formatting rule to apply. So all cells greater than 5,000, so that's right. Fill in red, font color black, perfect. Let's apply that and see what happens.
I'm proud to say I was using this particular query just last week.
Oh, fantastic. Awesome. Well, it does pay off, because rather than say even the other fastest way traditionally would be going up to sales amount, creating sort of custom view or number filters, which can be, I'm a little bit inaccurate with it sometimes. Now all of a sudden we can just go through filter by color, and then there's all of the values that we need to refer to now. And if we wanted to build on top of this, look at the date ranges, look at the different products that appear more often, that's where we can start to do that additional level of mining and hopefully getting some better results or better insights faster as well. Awesome. So I'll just go through and I'll undo those for a moment too. One of the things that I do want to sort of go through, so we've done a bit around just like the high level functionality of just kind of giving Copilot some license. We've gone through some of the sort of the data manipulation side of things. We could continue doing more examples of, say, changing column C into a currency, just some of the formatting rules that people would do day to day to make sure the data matches up with what they need. But one of the things I do want to try is just say to Copilot, are there any outliers in this data? Outliers are often pretty good to just understand if there was a massive sales day, if there was a massive sales fall, if there's any other pieces of insights that we want to see that maybe we want to take out of our data or concentrate on for any particular reason. Maybe there was a sale on, maybe there's some sort of other pivotal moment in the past period that we want to focus on. But let's ask Copilot if we can identify any outliers that we want to focus on within this data set. We can see Copilot is starting to work. It's giving a bit of an explanation as to how it is working. It's taking you back to high school with its interquartile ranges. So some of the stats that I haven't used for quite a long time are starting to come through. Got a bit of an explanation here. So this is where our Python starts to come in. I can recognize it, but I can't read it.
Oh, yeah, me.
Okay, let's see if we can say. And so we've established that there are some outliers. I won't go through too much of the details here, so please visualize these outliers. See if we can turn that into something that's a bit more consumable, because that's where we want to get most of these insights here, is just raising the bar of what functionality we can get out of Excel, and then getting it so it's a state that's a little more easy to consume for everyone as well.
Yeah, I think this is really helpful. We did a poll just previously or a few minutes ago, and the results were showing that most people are spending their time cleaning, transforming, and preparing messy data. So data entry, or this is where they're losing the most amount of time. So looking to get some value from Copilot to help them when they're cleaning and transforming, preparing data.
Awesome. Well, in that case, if we can have a look at this one, see what it's able to do for us. We are getting some boxes here for pretty statistical, if it takes me back to the days that I used to make these at school, but maybe not as relevant day-to-day in everyday business life. But we'll insert this to a sheet, have a bit of a closer look to see if there's anything we're able to gain back from here.
Creating complex visualizations and dashboards was also popping up though, so it's appropriate for a good portion of the users.
Because one of the things, like if we do think about the data that we have in front of us, we're able to see where the averages are coming through or the medians coming through, where the vast majority of values are coming through, but then also how far these outliers are going. You can make some pretty good observations here as to where your data is coming from. So from sales amounts, we can see the vast majority is sitting around that sort of 10,000 unit range, but it is skewing a little bit lower. But then every once in a while, there is a big winner at the end of the day as well. So there is quite a large range that we can refer to. So we probably want to research where these massive outliers are coming from, if that's something that we can repeat, or if there's a way that we can make sure we can lift that sort of lower skew range of whatever that quantity or sales amount sold is. And if we're going to try and make some correlations between it, even though we probably want to do a bit more digging, we can see that there's quite a high amount of quantity sold. So it's skewing in two completely different ranges here. So high quantity, low value. And if we take a bit of a look at the business, we might want to move these around. So if we just looked at this table, we might not be able to get those insights as quickly as possible. But by looking at this, we can see that we're selling a lot of the cheaper stuff, and we might want to turn that around at the end of the day, focus a bit more on this high outlier. Awesome. So what I might do now as well is go back to my HR data. I'll kick off with a new conversation here. And let's ask Copilot to visualize our data here as well. Show some insights on employee satisfaction levels. So as you can see, while that is loading up, you do get quite a few options, and this is pretty similar across most of the M365 apps once you have Copilot switched on, is just some frequently asked questions or most frequently used functionalities within these apps as well. So if you do want to get started but don't know where to start, chances are some of these prompts that you see at the top here will be able to give you that start of, do you want to see the sum of some values? Do you want to create tables? Do you want to highlight cells? So just kind of get the creative juices flowing as to how you can start to use these. But let's work down and see where this visualization request has come through. So from this one, I probably could have given it a better or richer prompt. Copilot, I think, is leaning that way. We're saying it would be useful to visualize this way. It's a little bit sort of suggesting that I could have given it some better guidelines. But what it has done is created these different graphs based on the employee satisfaction levels. So through that ambiguity, it has tried its best to give a couple of different options to see what observations we can make from this data set. Let's insert into this sheet, and then let's take a look at what we're able to garner from here. So we can see a bit of a distribution on the amount of employees that have got higher and lower levels of satisfaction. So if we look about here, there's quite a heavy skew towards this end of the table, a bit of a lighter skew towards the top end. So maybe a bit more digging into how satisfied the employees are within this data set. What needs to be done here is pretty apparent from that level of indication. Once again, we see this sort of cat and whisker box based on by department. So where can we see, once again, I think we've used this data before, people may recognize. We can see the management team very consistently up in this higher range, very close together data set, and we can see most other employees ranges are skewing quite low. So if we wanted to have a look at IT, for example, if we wanted to have a look at product management, marketing, and technical support is a little bit higher, we're starting to get a bit more of a range as to where the vast majority of these insights are coming from. So if we're skewing low, and we're skewing low in IT, marketing, product management, then we probably want to do some work with those departments specifically. And if we have a look at the salary band level, we can see that it's no probably coincidence that the highest salary band level has a very small amount of variance and a relatively high performance, where there's a massive range within the low one, and a bit of a sort of in the middle on the medium one. So it starts to get us sort of seeing some of these insights, which once again would have been very difficult for us to extract manually if we're scrolling through the values that we have on the page here, and hopefully giving us a bit more of an insight into how we can get started. say, for example, we could then go through, do some conditional formatting, be like highlight all of the values beneath less than 50% from these certain departments. And this would start to get us going on how we can get to that next stage. And Copilot would have gotten us there much faster than if we're going through that process manually ourselves, or just making some very high level just observations without getting that sort of statistical proof.
Yeah,
Cool.
Great for those, like, sales managers having weekly meetings, or any department weekly meeting where they need to have these sorts of updates at their hands on them very quickly. Time poor people.
Yeah. So like I might just do one more and then we can have a look back at the researcher. Hopefully the researcher's been doing some work in the back end.
Oh,
the
yes.
magic of TV. It's got something for us to have a look at. But what I might do is just say, just to help out with a bit more of that sort of manipulation or just transformation of those spreadsheets side of things, I will just show quickly change column C to a currency. So just kind of go to show hopefully how quick and hopefully how easy this will be sort of represented some of these formatting changes that you can go through, just to make sure it can be represented as we do. Formatting into a currency doesn't take too long usually, but it is just a way if you can think about ways you want to change dates. If there's messy data in there as well, changing everything into a date is also an easy one. And then all of a sudden we've got that on there. We could put another request through to say remove the decimal points there as well. So it can just, depending on how you want to work with your Excel sheet, it can lean in there. And then maybe, let's say, what was the highest selling product in March? So need to remember that it's probably going to read in American dates. I think there are American dates there. Let's say what was the highest selling product in March. Let's see if we can just get that insight there. And we'll then go take a look at what our researcher tool or forecasting tools have been doing in the time being. Awesome. So it's showing us the analysis of how it was able to determine the highest selling product in March. For anyone who wants to go through the rationale, then they're more than welcome to, but I might skip ahead. But the output of that is we can see that Theta Gear was the highest selling product in March with a total value of $640,000 in sales. So we can go through and verify that if we want to, but it's done a pretty good job of just cutting through the noise for us, just getting some of those quick answers. If you were trying to do summaries of how much did salesperson A sell a certain product during a certain period, rather than having to go through, do a lot of filtering or a lot of lookups, it can help you get those sort of incremental answers a lot faster. And then you could ask it to turn it into a table if you wanted to report back and just make sure you've got that body of evidence at the next stage of what the next stage of reporting is as well. So hopefully some practical examples here. Let's go back to our chat and see what it's been able to do. Awesome. So we do have an output to refer back to, which is great. So if we look back at all of the work that our analyst has been doing in the time being, so it's been going through and just doing a whole bunch of layering of thinking and rationale in order to give us some insights just on this spreadsheet. So just for reference, all I gave it was just do some insights into this overall spreadsheet that has HR data, department managers, sales data in it. And let's see what the output is as well. So it will refer back to that specific table. So the HR data insights, it tells us the size and completeness of the data, 100 employee records, no missing values, which is great to see. What's the satisfaction evaluation? Average satisfaction is that 0.4, so pretty consistent with the tables we made. Average last evaluation is 0.7. We didn't do that from our Excel work, but it's good to know as well. Didn't see a strong correlation between it using a statistical proof, which I need to do some research on. But let's look at the department division. So most employees are in sales, followed by technical support and product management. Salary distribution is highly skewed, as we did see through some of the cat and whisker boxes that we made. The management team seem to have much higher salaries, everyone else with much lower ones with lower satisfaction. And then we can start to see performance by department. So management, higher satisfaction, as we saw, accounting, lower satisfaction with lowest evaluation as well. So what I wanted to show with this one as well is we went through our spreadsheet. We worked a bit more traditionally using Copilot as our sort of enhancing engine. So it was working through doing some of these jobs for us. But there's a different world out there when it comes through to some of this really rich functionality in Analyst, where some of these high-level questions that we probably want to get a grounding with before we move to the next stage, we could probably just plug it into Analyst, put that request through for some insights, walk away, get a cup of tea, go do something else, and then come back and it'll all be ready there, sitting there for us. So we don't need to ask it one at a time for these insights.
Mm-hmm.
We can get this report built out and then start having a look through, asking more specific questions. But chances are, if we're looking at the demo set that we had in front of us, there's going to be around What are some of the HR insights around job satisfaction? What are some of the sales insights as far as like average sales quantity, average quantity sold? And we can start to review back these with similar top selling products. It can give us then that next step of how do we want to be more specific and require that one-to-one time of how we're working between Copilot and that Excel sheet. So using this as our grounding, understanding some of the core insights that we can get from our data, and then moving on to that next stage, doing that one-to-one Copilot experience to just keep building on top and hopefully saving a lot of time on that as well.
I think if we pay people a lot more money, they'll be more satisfied in their job. Is what I get out of that. You can give me a thumbs up if you agree with that one.
Well, we can go through and change this spreadsheet so we can make it a bit more positive story for next time. I think we can make it.
Well, it's probably realistic, but yeah, I'm just looking at the time, mate, and not to hurry you along, but we're getting towards the end of the allowed time for the workshop. Do you have any more things that you needed to or wanted to share before we wrap up?
No, so that was basically the end one of what I wanted to do. So hopefully there's been some sort of incremental ways of how to start thinking about Copilot in Excel, some of the individual one-to-one jobs that you're able to do. But if you do have a paid Copilot license, I just wanted to show that whilst we did quite a bit of work in here, we got some sort of incremental sort of observations and outputs and changes and all this sort of stuff. You can start to utilize some of the richer Copilot functionality to get that really strong basis of understanding what you're looking at, to then save that time. So when you go through and then do that one-to-one work, you're not necessarily starting from scratch once again. You're taking some of these observations to then just do that last 5-10% on top of what you really want to get that value out of, versus needing to then ask for the average, ask for the variances, changing everything across. So how can you build these different things on top of each other?
Oh gosh, that was super powerful actually, seeing that work in the background. It's pulled it all through for you in a more holistic way, and then you can dive deeper if you needed to.